Are we witnessing the moment when Ferrari bets everything to a single letter to save his 2025 season? Because what Vasseur has just said is not only crazy, it is a direct warfall to the logic of the Formula One paddock. The 2025 Formula One season is becoming a recurring nightmare for Ferrari. Despite the promises made during the preseason, track performance has been marked by inconsistency, lack of forcefulness at key moments, and above all, an alarming absence of victories. While McLaren has consolidated a hegemony that no one anticipated, so solid with a car that has been tuned to the smallest detail and an almost surgical race execution, Ferrari has been relegated to a secondary role in a season that seemed to its measure. What Frédéric Vasseur has said just before the Hungary GP, so it is not just a phrase to lift encouragement. It is an emergency shout disguised as security. The context could not be more sensitive. Ferrari is the only team in the top 4 of the Construction Championship that has not achieved a victory so far this year. It is more than 200 points below the leader McLaren, a brutal difference if it is considered that this was, in theory, the second year of Vasseur's new project, with an evolved car and 2 elite pilots. What Ferrari has shown is an almost poetic ability to stay at the doors of success without crossing it. Seconds, fast laps without prize, good classifications without solid results on Sunday. And in this context of frustration contained, Vasseur launches a statement, "We are going to dominate." You have to understand the weight of that phrase. It is not a superficial motivation for the media. It is a high-risk statement, launched on a race in a circuit that does not forgive configuration errors or strategic doubts. Hungaroring is a clue where efficiency in medium and slow curves, the stability of the rear train and braking precision mark the difference. Therefore, when Vasseur says that they are going to dominate, what he is doing, in reality, is to launch without a parachute in a vacuum, betting that the updates introduced in Belgium to take immediate effect on a path with completely different characteristics. These types of statements do not arise from naive optimism, but from an institutional need to show control, direction, and progress. After the poor performance in circuits such as Australia and China, where the SF25 showed improvements but never real competitiveness against McLaren, Red Bull, or even Mercedes, Ferrari knows that he needs a media blow, a message to the paddock that reverses the narrative. Because if they lose in Hungary, even after their improvements and with theoretically favorable conditions, the inevitable question will be, what else do they have to try? This climate of tension is not new for Ferrari, but what is new is the degree of transparency with which Vasseur is facing the situation. And in that same act, it is committing not only the technical credibility of the team, but its own leadership. If the result does not accompany, criticism will not just point out the car or pilots. The focus, this time, will point directly to the director who promised to dominate and ended, again, observing from the second step. The real reason behind the Frédéric Vasseur statement is not understood if we do not stop to analyze in depth the technical context in which Ferrari is. The Italian team, despite not having won a career in 2025, has not been completely absent from development. Quite the contrary. He has worked intensely in a series of improvements aimed at giving SF25 a more stable, more predictable platform, especially in slow and medium curves. Just what is needed in a layout like Hungaroring. The problem is that these improvements have been late, and now they face the challenge of verifying their effectiveness in record time. Ferrari's great technical commitment this year has been the new rear suspension, recently introduced into the Belgium Grand Prix. This piece is not just a mechanical component, it is a complete reinterpretation of the aerodynamic balance of the car. An improvement of this caliber requires time to understand, to adapt and, above all, to translate into real performance on the track. Leclerc was the first to praise its effect, noting that it can now be more aggressive without compromising the stability of the car. The car, finally, allows him to attack in curves without the rear punished for it. But this is only the first layer of a deeper change. The incorporation of Luca DL, Lewis Hamilton's performance ex-ingeniero in Mercedes, represents a key strategic movement within this technical restructuring. DL has been specifically transferred to work with Hamilton in its SF25 adaptation. This is not accidental. Ferrari understands that Lewis has not yet reached the roof of his performance with the red car, partly because his driving habits, acquired for years in Mercedes, are not entirely compatible with the initial behavior of SF25. Diella acts here as a technical translator, someone who can interpret the language of the British pilot and turn it into real and effective adjustments on the car. The braking management, the modulation of the Ferrari engine torque, and the curve aerodynamic transition are key areas where this alliance seeks to improve. And in the midst of this process of silent change, Hungary GP arrives. A clue that does not reward power, but control, traction, efficiency in revered areas. If there is a test where the SF25 can begin to show its real face, it is this. Hungaroring route is not only physically demanding, it is also psychologically implacable. You can't hide the subwiring here. There is no escape here if the rear of the car does not respond as expected. Therefore, Vasseur's message is not a simple act of arrogance. It is a declaration of technical faith. He is telling the world that what they have built, finally, is ready to face. That the improvements are not promises but tools of war, and that this is the circuit where that war will be fought. But this conviction also exposes fierce internal pressure. Because if after all this preparation, investment and reconfiguration Ferrari fails to be among the best this weekend, then there will be no excuses. Neither development in progress, nor lack of adaptation, nor necessary time. If the car does not yield now, when all the variables seem aligned, it will be very difficult to justify why this 2025 project deserves to remain defended as the right path. Therefore, Vasseur's statement is, deep down, a statement of need rather than certainty. And that is what makes it so dangerous. Because if it is not fulfilled, the price will not only be another lost podium. It will be another blow to Ferrari's credibility as a real contender. At this point, what is at stake for Ferrari goes far beyond the championship points. Vasseur's statement is not simply a media strategy to change the narrative. It is a statement that can have deep structural implications within the team. If Ferrari fails at least a forceful podium in Hungaroring, the consequences will not only be sports. They can be political, contractual, and even strategic in the development of the car by 2026. Ferrari has reached a turning time. The 2025 season is not one more, it is the continuation of a project that promised to return the glory, and that, if not demonstrating tangible results in this intermediate phase of the championship, it will be marked by frustration. Vasseur's message, launched with so much emphasis, loads with the expectation of an entire institution. It is not exaggerated to say that his words compromise the credibility of Ferrari's technical and operational leadership. If the car fails this weekend, it will not be just a defeat. It will be a public exhibition that the course drawn could be wrong. In this context, the Hungaroring circuit is transformed into more than a track. It becomes a definitive test field. Not only to evaluate the impact of technical updates, but also to assess the temper of the equipment under pressure. This layout is a mirror that does not lie. Any tensile weakness, aerodynamic balance, or braking precision will be brutally exposed. If Ferrari fails to adapt here, the narrative of continuous progress falls apart, and critical voices both inside and outside the team will multiply. And the most worrying thing for Ferrari is that its direct rivals are already positioned. McLaren arrives with a clear tactical advantage. His car has been the most constant in race pace during the first dates of the championship. Red Bull, despite the internal crisis caused by the replacement of Liam Lawson by Yuki Tsunoda, still has Verstappen's ability to rescue points even on committed weekends. Mercedes, with a sharp Russell and an increasingly adapted Antonelli, has fallen into the fight for podiums. If Ferrari does not get results now, he could begin to slide in the general classification in a dangerous way. But if they manage to take that step, if the SF25 really responds as they expect and can fight victory or at least lead during key phases of the race, then the story can change completely. This could be the turning point that Ferrari needs to start a new internal confidence cycle, reinforce the morals of the team and return prominence to Hamilton, who has not been able to show his true level. A dominant performance in Hungary would not only calm the immediate pressure, but also consolidate the narrative that, despite the initial stumbling, this project still has life and can grow from here at the end of the season. And now that we know the complete context, the emotional load and the technical strategy behind what Vasseur has just declared, the question is not whether Ferrari can win in Hungary, but what it means if it does not. This race becomes the threshold that divides a season with the future of a condemned to oblivion. Therefore, we want to know your opinion. Do you think the SF25 really has what is necessary to convert pressure into performance? Or are we facing the last sigh of an illusion that never finished consolidating? Leave us your analysis in the comments, because this is the type of debate that enriches our community of fans of Formula One. If you are interested in deepening beyond the headlines, if you are passionate about understanding not only what happens on the track but what moves behind each technical decision, you are in the right place. And if this has already seemed intense, what comes next could redefine how we understand this season. We are going to prepare a complete video where we break up with surgical precision how the Hungaroring circuit exposes the strengths and weaknesses of each car. You will surprise yourself with how much an apparently modest track can reveal about the immediate future of the championship. So be sure to activate notifications because what we are going to count after this Grand Prix could completely change your perspective on this season. Ferrari is at the edge of the precipice. The question is, will it jump towards the triumph, or will it fall into the abyss of another lost opportunity? We will know that very soon.